Why did I start a YouTube channel? Well, I've actually asked that question to myself quite a few times, and the number one thing I can come up with is to help people. Is to help people. I've got a unique background. I've had a unique life. I've got unique experiences, and I just feel the need to share in the hopes that it'll help somebody. So my aim is always to just be a servant. You know, most of my life I've been a servant. I've worked in public service for a number of years. I'm 56 years old now. I am retired. I am a 22-year Air Force veteran. I am from Fort Worth, Texas, humble beginnings, streets of Fort Worth. I've risen all the way up to the highest levels of state government, executive level in federal government, and at the senior level in the military. So I got a lot of experience on my belt, You know, again, I say I come from humble beginnings in Fort Worth, Texas. You know, I can't say I had a rough upbringing, but, you know, the definition of poor probably fit us, you know, but we didn't feel poor because we had a lot of love around us. Coming out of Fort Worth, man, is when I ended up joining the Air Force and did a 22-year career in that, you know, been every place overseas, just about probably upwards of 50 countries overseas. And so, you know, been to the Philippines, own a home in the Philippines, been married to Filipino for like 36 years. And I, you know, I consider myself an educated man. So, you know, I've got several degrees. I've got an MBA. I've got a bachelor's degree in psychology. I've got a master's certificate. I have 2 associate's degrees. I have an executive development course certificate, which is a premier course for executives in the state of Texas for state government. I have quite a few awards and decorations for military service. Like I said, just got a really unique career. But throughout all of that, I've worked everything from working with folks at Child Protective Services to work with folks in the Texas Education Agency. Man, I've done it all. You know, worked Department of Agriculture in the food service division. Worked Texas Veterans Land Board. Worked with veterans. You know, Veterans Land Board provides a lot of benefits to veterans. We also operate a number of state veterans homes and also state veteran cemeteries, which I was the actual director over for about 8 years. And so when I came in to that role, I literally took that program and transformed it into what you see today. So I am Eric Brown and former director of state veteran cemeteries. But I got a lot to offer. And I think YouTube is a great platform for me to do that. Interesting enough, for a number of years, I've actually trained and you know, got educated on public speaking, to include being a part of what's known as the Toastmasters or International program, Toastmasters International. It's an organization that's focused on improving public speaking. This started out with like businessmen years ago, and they just felt the need to have a certain type of language within a business community, and it flourished from there. And so I actually used to be the president of a local chapter of Toastmasters in Japan for a number of years. So that was an interesting role, a lot of fun in that. And it was a volunteer position. Like I said, got a lot of unique experiences. I think I can help somebody. My background is in behavioral health psychology. So when it comes to human emotion, human behavior, you know, I think I'm someone who is a master of his craft. I've actually worked in mental health setting, clinical setting in the Air Force for a number of years. Oversaw several mental health clinics in the Air Force to include substance abuse, and also that included family advocacy. So it wasn't just mental health. It was mental health, it was drug testing, substance abuse, family advocacy, you know, child protection, spouse protection, you know, that sort of thing. And so just did a lot of unique things over my lifetime. And so I guess you could say I'm like the Forrest Gump of Texas in a sense. And so, you know, like I say, born and raised in Texas, live in Austin, Texas at the moment. Plan on, you know, transitioning at some point out of Austin. It's a great city, but it's pretty much gotten overgrown. It's actually starting to rain now here in Austin. That's another thing about being in Texas. It's the craziest weather, man, you can imagine. But I hope to inspire, I hope to uplift, I hope to improve, I hope to educate. hope to enlighten, whatever I can do to try to lift the spirits of those who decide to subscribe to me. And I will ask you to subscribe to me. And I'll tell you why. Because one thing I will give you is honesty. I'm going to give you brutal honesty. If you don't I always say be prepared. If you ask me a question, I'm going to give you the answer, so be prepared for the answer. I tend to stick away from politics on this platform because we got enough of that. I certainly stay away from negativity. One thing you'll find on this platform is positivity, very diverse content. I thought about the niche and niching down, and people say you got to have a niche. You need to talk about just one area. I don't really believe in that. I think you can cover a whole bunch of things as long as you do it effectively and you meet the needs of the people and you help somebody, reach somebody. And so I'm going to talk about everything from veterans, because I am a veteran. I'll talk about all things veterans. I'll talk about traveling, because I've done a lot of world travels. In fact, in 2023, we visited 35 countries. We did about 10 cruises that year. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And it wore me out, both physically and emotionally, because it's like, when you're on cruise ships for that long, man, it kind of does something to you. So I think I kind of overdid it a little bit. But yeah, a lot of experiences. I even have experience working with kids at a number of occasions throughout my life. In Abilene, I served on a board where CPS provided money to the local city to give vouchers out to families in need. And so I was on the board to determine who got those vouchers. So that was pretty interesting volunteer thing. And that was in the Air Force. In the Air Force, it's not just wearing a uniform and doing military things. They also require you, or they push you hard to do volunteerism within local communities, because they want you to be ambassadors for the U.S., not just wear the uniform. They want you to be literally public servants, particularly with the Air Force. I'm not for sure about the other services, but I know the Air Force does a damn good job of making sure you're a well-rounded individual. So yeah, a lot of experiences. Why I'm coming to YouTube, I think, is to really just share some of those experiences. Some things I know that people may not be aware of, I want to share. Some things people are aware of, I want to share with y'all, so that y'all have a different way of thinking about it. You may have been thinking about something in one way, but I want to give you a whole nother way of thinking about things. I've got a unique ability to come up with ideas. I'm a thinker, which is why I tend to oftentimes suffer from lack of sleep, because my mind is always racing. But it's racing for good reason. It's finding better ways to help people, or finding better ways to get people out of situations, finding better ways to improve lives. That's just all I think about. I don't know, man. It's a servant's heart. A lot of people talk about the church and going to church and how the church is kind of faulted nowadays. It's not like it used to be. Church is a little different now. It's very monetized. There's a lot of preachers who are misleading people, which I don't condone, and that's something that doesn't sit well with me. But I firmly believe you don't have to go to church to believe. You don't have to read every word of the Bible to believe. I think to believe, all you have to do is serve, because at the end of the day, that's what the good Lord wants you to do, is to serve. Worship Him and serve. And I think oftentimes you'll find folks that read the Bible, they go to church, but they don't serve. So they defeat the whole purpose out the gate. I do go to church, when I get the chance, don't get me wrong, but I don't just let that lead me in my belief in the higher power, because what leads me in my belief in a higher power is to be a good servant, to show that higher power that I'm of a reflection of that higher power, who I believe is the ultimate a servant. So I don't like to get into the religious aspects either, but for me personally, I've studied a lot of religions. I've studied Tibetan Buddhism for probably, 7-8 years. I studied Tibetan Buddhism. The Dalai Lama, 14th Dalai Lama, Tibet. It's a country sitting outside of China in the mountains over the Himalayas. The reason I was drawn to that study of that country, and it's not a religion, it's more of a way of living. And their whole mantra is compassion. They believe in compassion. They believe in interconnectedness, meaning that all people are connected in one way or another. That's why we need to treat each other with respect and love and compassion. So I was really drawn to that religion, man, and it really did something to me internally. I've also dallied with and read some of the Quran. I've studied quite deeply with the Quran and got an understanding of that religion. Obviously, coming from a Christian Baptist upbringing, I understand, the thought process in the churches and Jesus Christ. And so My background is very unique. It's very diverse. I don't tend to lean in one area. I'm not, when it comes to politics, I don't consider myself Democrat or Republican. I'm not Democrat or Republican. I don't call either one. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I've worked close enough with politicians in their orbit to know that it's all a game. At the end of the day, it's all a lot of backdoor handshakes and promises and power. That's what you got behind closed doors. It's not, there's no Democrat, Republicans. It's just a bunch of group of people with power that leans one way or another. You know what I'm saying? They talk about the liberals and conservatives. I feel sorry for folks who really get so caught up with that stuff, because at the end of the day, it's about right and wrong, you know, and it's about good and bad, you know. And some of those folks behind closed doors making decisions on your behalf, I'm going to tell you right now, they're not making decisions on your behalf. They're making decisions on their ability to remain in power or to make money or to appease lobbyists who pay a lot of money to get these guys elected into office by campaign donations and things like that. Don't get me started on that one. So I don't claim Republican or Democrat.